So let's kind of talk about what I need before the end of class. I need your proposals by the time class is over. Okay, sent to me via Google like you do all your other assignments, okay? And there may be some time after I do the lit review lecture that you can work on them. So if that's the case, I'll just release you to work on that, but you'll have the rest of the time today to do that. So I'm going to go right into our lit review lecture and conversation. I did not send to you that PowerPoint. I will put that in the chat so you can access that. So let me do that right now before I get started. The PowerPoint is in the chat. Click on your PowerPoint and you'll have it just as if I'd shared it with you via email. So I want to go through this, and I'm going to share two examples, both coming from my writing and my research. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the PowerPoint. Let's see if I can get back to it. Yep. Oop. Here we go. Here we go. So Brandy, you're the only one I see. Can you see this? Brandy, can you see this? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Got it. Okay. So this is kind of what this is going to look like. What is a literature review? How's it going to fit into your paper? And how is it different than an annotated bibliography? A lit review surveys scholarly articles, books, and other sources. Some of you asked about dissertations, that those are also pieces of research you may use. Relevant to a particular issue, area of research, theory, providing a description of a summary and critical evaluation of each work. So when you're doing a literature review, you're essentially saying, I'm using X source. It's important because, and it's going to come as you're going to do them in headers with headers, and you'll see on my example of what mine looks like. But it's just a review of books, articles, and resources that you found important to your research. Okay, so that's sort of the academic definition of what a literature review is. What are the components? I bolded those components. I like to go down to this one, analysis, interpretation. It's what you're using to help prove your thesis, help answer your research question or question. So I like all four of those, but I land on analysis and interpretation. Okay.
Yep.
Someone's texting me. Am I muted?
You're not.
No.
Okay. Well, somebody's text. Okay.
I'm sorry, Professor McDonald, that was me.
Yeah, I don't understand your text.
On the picture that I sent you, one of the students, their name's coming up as my name.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
That's happened.
I don't know how that happened. Okay, thank you for that. So thinking about analysis and interpretation, thinking about data evaluation, let's land on that fourth bullet. Okay, let's land on that fourth bullet. A literature review should comprise of the following: an overview, an explanation, and draw a conclusion. I'm not going to go through those 3 bullet points. You can go through those under on your own. But what you're doing is, again, going back to the beginning. Oops. a survey of scholarly work. Okay, a survey of scholarly work that gives an overview and an explanation and draws conclusions. And look at the third point, draws conclusions to which pieces are best considered in their argument, most convincing of their opinion, and make the greatest contribution. That third bullet point is kind of where you need to be. Okay, so I'm going to go back and look at components again. I'm really interested in analysis and interpretation. I'm interested in drawing conclusions. Okay, that's what you're doing in the research process that you're currently in. And then in assessing each piece, consideration should be given to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I think the author's argument is where you need to go. If you think the author is doing a great job in that source, cite it, use it. Don't spend a lot of time on it if it's not something that you can't use to help support your research question or your thesis. Remembering a thesis cannot be a question. A thesis is a statement you're trying to prove. Okay. So I want to go back to that first bullet point where I think this might be the most important on this slide. Even though I like value, I think value is important, but looking at what the author is saying, and is that going to be supportive of your question or your thesis? And then the purpose. And when I show you my example, this will resonate probably a little more concretely with you. Okay. So notice the verbs in each one of these bullet points: place, describe, identify, resolve, identify, point, and place. Those pieces, those bullet points, that's what's going to help guide this section of your paper. Okay. This is not your entire paper. This is a section of your paper. So don't think you're doing your literature review and that's it. Your literature review is simply looking at the pieces, looking at the sources you gathered and saying, you know what, this is important because. And then you'll figure out, okay, should these particular sources go under a topic or a heading? I'm going to go back to nurse bullying. A heading might be workplace. That everything you find under workplace, that's going to be part of your lit review section. Okay. I know it sounds a little abstract right now. When I show you my example, it's maybe a little more clear. But that's why I'm going into this piece now, because this is a really important part of your paper. You've done your proposal. We're going to put that aside. Okay. Your proposal is going to guide this work. This work will then guide the rest of your paper. Okay. So let's look at mine. So you'll notice you have here, I have headings of what I'm going to review. English language learners and giftedness. Everything in this particular piece of my lit review involves this topic. Okay. So notice here with English language learners and giftedness, I'm talking about gifted programs and English language learners. That's the first piece under this heading. So every source that I have reviewed under this heading will be here. Okay, so you can see my sources, 3, 4, 5 sources there, on and on and on and on. That's what now my lit review was about 27 pages. But I'm showing you this example because of what headings should look like. Whatever heading that your sources are talking about, that goes here. Your lit review is all about guiding your reader through different aspects of your research. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to go back to what we're doing. Okay, looking at scholarly work, which you've already been doing. You've already been doing that. Now you're going to put that into written form. What have you found? What is it that you're going to use for your paper? And what is it going to eventually look like? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to ask you to sort of think about on your own. Number one, after you've written your proposal, you can't change your topic because your proposal is driving the rest of your research. Okay? Your proposal is driving the rest of your research. So if you need to make tweaks to your proposal, I think Jolly made a really good point on Tuesday. Hey, here's my topic. I may expand on one element of my topic. Perfect. No need to go back and rewrite that proposal. No need to do that. Because what you submitted, you've gotten a grade for. You may need to go back and do some tweaking in your mind and thinking about, okay, this is something I might want to change because, but you're not changing your entire topic. Okay, I'm going to pause right there for questions.
Would interviews be considered part of the lit review?
It would be.
Okay.
It would be. The only thing I'll say about an interview is that that's going to be hard to capture based on what you found in your recording. So let's say you have let's say you interview a person that's a source. You're going to have to sort of not verbatim quote what they said, but you're going to have to put in a sort of tight summary of what your interviewee said. Does that make sense? Because you're gonna let's say you record the person. You're going to listen to that recording, and then you're going to figure out, okay, what can I take from that recording that I can insert into my lit review? Follow me? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay, okay. Because what you don't want to do is say, okay, I'm going to put the entire transcript of what they said into my paper. That's not what I want you to do. You summarize the findings of what you found there.
What if
Another
we're using
keyword? No, go ahead, Ashley. Sorry.
What if we're using a couple different people? Like I'm doing burnout and nurses, but depending on like where you are, whether you're an acute care nurse, an administrator in a hospital, or like a school nurse, those are the three that I'm using. I kind of want to see their answers and then compare.
That's
So-
perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So you may have three different headings.
Okay.
And if you have three different headings, then those interviews will go into one of those headings.
Okay.
And what happens with that is when we get down to the end of you putting your paper together, that's where some of that shifting in your lit review may happen. Okay. You and I can have a conversation and say, okay, here's where I think my heading should go. And I may read that and say, well, this actually should go in another piece of your paper.
Okay.
Okay. Because ultimately what your lit review is doing is validating your research questions / thesis. That's what your literature review is doing. So instead of putting evidence in your paper like we've been doing, all of your evidence will be in one section of your paper. Okay. So kind of look at it that way.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah, Jolly.
The proposal will also be part of the final paper, like of the whole thing? No,
Mm-mm.
that is completely something.
Completely
you.
separate. That was your introduction to me saying, hey, this is where my research is going. This is
Okay.
what it looks like. So no, now can you take pieces of your proposal out of it? Absolutely. Yes. Yes, you can
Okay.
steal from your proposal, but your proposal as you send it to me intact will not be placed directly into your paper
Okay.
as a whole.
Okay. Yep.
Great question. So I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit because I'm all about thinking. I'm all about thinking about What's the next step? Okay. So what you've been doing is researching, finding sources. Now it's time for you to take those sources and start figuring out how are they helpful? Not, are they helpful? Are they not? Are they helpful or not? Okay. Your lit review is critical to helping you understand your paper as a whole. If your lit review is weak, then your whole paper is weak because your sources are not there to help solidify your claim or your thesis. So we need to spend a lot of time thinking about what our lit review section looks like. Again, you're going to have an introduction, lit review, your argument, your conclusion. You're going to have 4 sections to this paper, and it's going to be labeled just as it is. Introduction here, lit review here, argument here. It's not going to be like what we've been writing before. It's going to be very scripted and very to the point. That's why we're doing this in sections. Okay. This is probably the first time you've had to do this kind of research paper in this kind of format. And there's a reason I like to do it this way, is because I'm teaching you how to do different pieces in different sections. All right, I'm gonna let you go about the rest of your class. Okay. We're going to come back at 6 o'clock. You're gonna come back at 6 o'clock. And I want you to unmute at 6 o'clock and tell me what you think this is going to look like for you. It's difficult. Don't know how I'm going to do it. Hey, I've got a good handle on this. I kind of know where this is going. I'm going to need a lot of time to do it. I'm going to need a conference with Dr. McDonald, whatever. We're coming back at 6 o'clock and we're having an authentic conversation. And those of you that don't speak, now's the time for you to unmute and speak, because this is going to be the bulk of your work. Writing your argument, you can do that in your sleep. Your lit review is going to be the heavy lift. So I'm going to stop talking. I'll be here at my computer. Here's your think time. Your think time's now to 6 o'clock. We're going to come back and then we're going to share. Okay. We're going to share where you think where this is going, how this can help you, what other supports you need. Okay. We're all good. You have my PowerPoint. You have my example. Okay. We'll be back at 6 o'clock and we'll start doing sharing of kind of where you think this is going.